Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're bypassing those glossy tourist brochures and digging right into the real data. We're going to uncover the institutional street smarts that longtime New Yorkers actually use to navigate the five boroughs. Let's just dive right in.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at 1. The deceptive core, 2. Dual realities, 3. Roots of danger, and 4. The locals playbook.
Starting off with Section 1, the deceptive core, Times Square.
Okay, so when we talk about danger in New York, we absolutely have to talk about Times Square. Now, let's be clear up front, you're not going to get into a shootout here. There's a massive police presence, literally 24/7. But look at that crowd density, 360,000 pedestrians every single day. For a local, Times Square is a masterclass in how to lose your money, your patience, and your dignity in a single afternoon. And that's usually to some aggressive off-brand Elmo demanding a $20 tip. Real New Yorkers, they only go near this place if they have tickets to a Broadway show, and if they absolutely have to walk through, they do it fast, making zero eye contact with their wallets firmly in their front pockets.
Moving on to Section 2, Dual Realities, Commercial versus Residential.
So the timing of your visit can completely change the environment. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. Take Jamaica out in Queens or Hunts Point in the Bronx. During the day, Hunts Point is vital infrastructure. It hosts the largest wholesale produce market in the world. We're talking processing 60% of the entire city's produce. And Jamaica, it's this massive, bustling transit hub full of Caribbean restaurants and shops. But look at the nighttime reality. Hunts Point is mostly industrial warehouses, right? So it just completely empties out after dark, instantly becoming a hotspot for drug activity and violence. In Jamaica, after 10 p.m., public drug use spikes, and violent incidents tend to happen right near those same subway stations. If you're a visitor arriving at night, thinking you're in a busy, totally normal area, you can so easily wander right onto the wrong block.
65. That is the staggering number of shooting victims recorded in 2024 alone in the 46th precinct. That covers parts of the Fordham area, literally just steps from the beautiful university gates. Fordham University is one of the most respected Jesuit universities in the country, and it has this incredibly gorgeous campus. But the residential blocks immediately surrounding it, they have an aggravated assault rate nearly 5 times the national average. It's so stark that the university actually has to warn its own students to be careful the second they step outside the campus gates.
So the crucial takeaway here is what we call institutional knowledge. In incredibly dense residential areas, places like East New York or Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, danger isn't everywhere, it's highly specific. A neighborhood might have these beautiful gentrified blocks right next to a park, but walk just 2 avenues east and you're suddenly facing high rates of robberies and gang activity. The real danger for visitors is that they completely lack this institutional knowledge of what blocks they're walking onto and exactly what time of day the whole dynamic shifts. Locals survive because they know exactly where those invisible lines are drawn.
That brings us to Section 3, the roots of danger, systemic neglect.
1 in 11. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. In Brownsville, Brooklyn, your chance of becoming a crime victim is an astonishing 1 in 11. They see roughly 3,600 crimes per 100,000 residents. And you might wonder why. Well, because Brownsville holds the highest concentration of public housing in all of New York City. Over a quarter of the residents there live below the poverty line. The systemic challenges of unemployment and incredibly high rent burdens have created this environment where crime has persisted for decades. Locals literally do not let their kids play outside unsupervised here. Now, this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the issue. When you compare it to the national average baseline, violent crime in Mott Haven sits roughly 300% higher, and Tremont, that sits at a staggering 326% above the average. Mott Haven specifically has the highest rate of non-fatal assault hospitalizations in the entire city. We're talking about neighborhoods where almost half the residents never finished high school, and the poverty is just incredibly severe. But look, we really must remember that behind these massive statistical bars are actual communities, people dealing with heartbreaking daily tragedies. Just in January 2025, 14-year-old Caleb Rios was fatally stabbed in a completely unprovoked attack during his ordinary morning commute to school in Mott Haven. Over in Soundview, a neighborhood where the data shows roughly 1 crime-related incident happens every hour and 37 minutes, a 17-year-old honor student named Sincere Campbell was fatally shot just steps from his home. He wanted to be an engineer. These are neighborhoods of hard-working people trapped in cycles of violence that end up touching folks who have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Let's map this out to see how it builds geographically. Look at this timeline of Far Rockaway, sitting way out on a peninsula in Queens.
This perfectly illustrates how geographic isolation combined with decades of systemic neglect just totally compounds danger. Seriously, it takes nearly an hour and a half on the A train just to get here from Midtown. Back in the late 19th century, it was a wealthy resort destination. But by the 1950s, the city began packing low-income residents into converted summer bungalows. By the 70s, it sank into deep poverty. And more recently, because it's so physically isolated, it was absolutely devastated by Hurricane Sandy and Tropical Storm Ida. That isolation means emergency services are way slower to respond, and economic opportunity is virtually non-existent.
Which brings us to the ultimate symbol of systemic neglect. During the 1970s, facing a massive fiscal crisis, the city pulled back its services. And landlords in the South Bronx? They literally set their own buildings on fire just to collect the insurance money. Block after block burned right to the ground. President Jimmy Carter toured the ruins in 1977 and called it the worst slum I have ever seen. Yet here we are, almost 50 years later, and the South Bronx still has the highest concentration of poverty, the worst health outcomes, the highest rates of asthma, and the highest violent crime rate of any borough. It is the direct product of half a century of conscious decisions by policymakers to disinvest from a community.
And finally, Section 4, the Locals Playbook, Safe Zones and Survival Rules. All right, the New York City subway is magnificent during rush hour. We all know that. But late at night, it is a completely different world. In 2024, murders in the subway system literally doubled from 5 to 10. And high-profile incidents, like passengers being pushed onto tracks, have made New Yorkers extremely cautious. Experienced locals treat the 2 a.m. train as a calculated risk, and they automatically follow these strict survival rules. You stay in the middle car where the conductor is, you stand well back from the platform edge, you never enter an empty train car, you keep your phone completely hidden in your pocket so it's not snatched the second the doors open, and above all, you never ever fall asleep. Knowing exactly where you are on the map is just as critical. Take Harlem. It carries enormous cultural weight globally, but a local knows it is definitely not a monolith. You have genuinely safe areas in West Harlem near Columbia University and those bustling commercial blocks of 125th Street. But if you travel across to East Harlem, also known as El Barrio, you are in a zone that requires extreme caution. East Harlem has the highest felony assault rate in all of Manhattan. It's running twice the citywide average. That distinction between West and East matters profoundly when you're just walking around.
Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. No one is saying you shouldn't visit the outer boroughs. Locals highly recommend checking out these specific cultural jewels in the Bronx. You've got the Grand Concourse, the absolutely incredible Italian food on Arthur Avenue, the world-famous Bronx Zoo, the Botanical Garden, the Bronx Museum. These are fantastic, enriching places to see. But the local playbook rule is very simple. Go to these destinations, enjoy the heck out of them, but strictly avoid wandering aimlessly into the surrounding deep residential blocks. Tourists simply have no business being there.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer today. We've seen the raw data. We've seen the stark contrast between day and night, and we've seen how geography and systemic neglect literally trap communities in endless cycles of violence. If the structural causes of danger in neighborhoods like the South Bronx are this well documented and fully understood by everyone from locals to the police to the federal government, why has the city just left them behind for